Welcome back to the Diary of a CMO, the podcast where I sit with CMOs and thought leaders in marketing and related media, tech, and creative industries. We'll talk about how they got to where they are, strategies and life lessons we can learn from them to help build a career, business, and ultimately a life that we love. I hope you enjoy, and please subscribe. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me on another episode of the Diary of a CMO. My guest today is someone that leads a company that's in my next life. It's a company I would like to work for. This might just be a shameless pitch right now, but I've admired this company for a very long time. My love for this company started from the list that they published, which is the best global brands list. That was my first encounter with this company, and I delved deeper into some of the frameworks and methodologies that they apply for the work that they do for clients across the world, across the region, across multiple verticals. My guest today is the global CEO and president at Interbrand. He leads the day-to-day operations of this global brand consultancy, and he spearheads the growth agenda and supporting marketing and consulting efforts in all of the regions. He's been in the company, I think, for over 20 years. I haven't quite followed him personally as I have followed the company brand itself. I'm sure he would like to hear that because he wouldn't want it to be about him. He would want it to be about the company. It's my pleasure to welcome to the show the global CEO, Interbrand, Gonzalo Brujo. Did I get that right, Gonzalo?
That's great, Tayo. Thank you very much for inviting us, for thinking about Interbrand, and also for thinking about me. It is a pleasure to be talking with you. And I hope that we can talk about brands and Africa, which is a critical part of the world and more and more important for society, but also for local countries and for local citizens to expand and to do better. So that is why I think this podcast is
Fantastic.
so important for you, for
Fantastic.
people in Africa, for businesses in
Fantastic.
Africa, and for people that are interested to invest in Africa going forward.
Fantastic. That is music to my ears, Gonzalo. I might as well just bring out my key. That's music to my ears when people talk about Africa in such positive light. There's a lot about the continent that's beautiful, but don't let me start with Africa because I can continue for another hour. So let's park that for now. But thank you very much for accepting the invitation to be on the show. A big shout out to Maria and Paula on your team for helping to set this up. Amazing people for helping me set this up. I deeply, deeply appreciate them helping out with this. So talk to us, Gonzalo. For those who are meeting you for the first time, how would you introduce yourself to the audience?
Well, good question. Well, my name is Gonzalo Brujo. I've been in the company. Well, I'm the global group CEO of Interbrand Group of Companies. I've been in the company for I think 23 years. So the company has Interbrand celebrated this year our 50th anniversary. I'm also turning 50, so I am the same age of Interbrand. So, right now my role is to see how I can project the future of the business and how I can prepare the business for the next 50 years. This year is a very important year for us because, again, not every brand has the ability to turn 50.
Yeah.
We are celebrating our 50th anniversary, but also we are celebrating our 25th anniversary of Best Global Brands. And as you can imagine, in the history of our business, Africa has been very profound in terms of our global footprint and in terms of how we see things. So my role at the end of the day is to see how I can help brands to expand and grow regionally, locally, or globally. Depends on whatever industry they are
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. Fantastic. Let's rewind real quick. So I read, actually, I watched one of your interviews, and you talked about your attempt at graduating with a triple major, and how you eventually did that, and not only did that, you did it in style. So talk to us how, I mean, because I have a younger audience, like some of them may be interns or me. Like, how did you do this? How did you do that?
Well, you know what? I think, well, first of all, I think I was very lucky, especially with my parents,
Mm,
because my parents offered me, and my father said to me, Gonzalo, you can study whatever you want to do, but do it well. So I think the encourage of my parents of going abroad and perform well and making sure that I was making the most of the time and making sure that I was doing the right things, doing things right, but also doing the right things at that time. So I knew that I knew whatever I wanted to do. I was very interested always in international in communications and marketing. So that was one of the majors. And then I was very interested in political science. And then what happened is that when I began to have courses on sociology, I was also interested in sociology, and then I asked to the university, how can I be a triple major? And they said, no, you cannot be a triple major. And I said, why not? And then I had to put together, I remember, a proposal, and I have to present this to the provost and to the trustees of the university at that time in the United States. And I said, you know what? Not only I'm challenging you to have a triple major, but also if I do a triple major and I am less than cum laude, you can give me only two majors instead of three. So I remember that I was challenging the provost, I was challenging the university, not only that I was willing to do a triple major, but I was going to do it with the best grades as possible, in this case, summa cum laude. And of course, I had to do credits in different places, not only in the United States, but also in Europe at that time, in Spain and also in France, in Paris, to make sure that I could complete as many credits as possible from around the world. So I think that was kind of probably my first challenge, independent challenge.
wow.
That was quite cool. And as always, being consistent, working hard, and making sure that I try to over deliver on something that at that point was a challenge for me.
That's amazing, Gonzalo. That's it. That's amazing. That's amazing. Kudos to you. You prepared a proposal and you presented it to the provost.
Yes, I did, and I had to
Oh,
present a board, and then I was the first triple major in the university. So
amazing.
great. It was the first. Gonzalo Brujo was the first triple major in the university, and I put the conditions. So it was not that easy. Okay, because again, having a
Yeah.
C which grades,
Yeah.
mediocre. No, 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 no. I'm going to be the very best in the three of them.
Yeah.
So that was then. But again, to be honest with you, don't think that I was the best student when I was younger.
Okay.
I was a normal student, decent. But I think with time and with once I mature, I kind of got better and better and get more competitive on the things that I wanted in life, but also in business.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I saw that you had a short stint at a fashion, is it a fashion school?
Yeah, well, I was one of the founders of one of the leading fashion schools here in Spain. I did publish a lot of books in fashion. I thought fashion was very, very interesting for me and for us, and especially for brands, is because usually when people think about brands, they naturally think about fashion brands. So at that time, when I was younger, fashion brands were very, very important to me, and I thought that they were very provocative. I think they were trendsetters, and that is why I cherry pick to concentrate and specialize on everything related to fashion brands in my early years in the branding world. And I did publish books on this. I work on specific universities, and Again, I was the president of the Fashion Institute of Spain, so I did kind of a lot of things, at least in my country, to make sure that I knew about something very, very well, and I can dominate that speech and trends for that specific section at that point of my life when I was younger.
Fantastic. Amazing. Amazing. And you are right, actually, that one of the first experiences when people think about brands, one of the first types of brands they think about is actually fashion brands. You're absolutely right. Because even as a consumer, or a young, mature consumer, I think that when you think about brands, I think for everything else, you could care less what brand it is. But when it comes to what you're wearing as a young adult, you are particular about, what brand it is. So I can see that. I can see that.
And also in my country, you need to know that, of course, not every country is great on everything. But in my
Right.
country, definitely travel and leisure and fashion is important. So there
Interesting.
is a lot of tourists that they come to my country to spend time and to understand the culture, the gastronomy, its people, but also fashion and lifestyle plays an important role here in Spain.
Great stuff. Great stuff. So let's dive into some of the, your day-to-day stuff now. Yeah. 22 years. Am I right? At Interbrand. Yeah.
23, 24 years. Yes,
23,
you're right.
24 years. Fantastic. So I'm just curious, like, what has that journey been like for you? Did you start with a company or you joined at some point? Obviously, you joined if the company is 50 years old, so you joined at some point. Did you plan to stay for this long?
No, never. No, no, never. I wonder what I did so many years in the company still. The good news is that every 3 years, more or less, there is a new position or a new challenge for me in the company.
Got it.
So, top line, um, I started and I founded Interbrand Spain 23, 24 years ago. And that was a startup operation, of course, with a great brand. And I remember that I started by calling people. I think the beginning of the business when I started, when I was quite young, I was doing cold callings. I tried to work on my network. I tried to really understand the business situations. For me, understanding the brand situation is important, but I think the combination of understanding the business and the brand was very critical. So I was the kind of number one employee, always surrounded by amazing people with me. So I think the success of the company when I was at that time the managing director of Interbrand Spain and then Latin America, it is not only attributed to my capacities or my abilities to lead a business, but also the abilities to really be surrounded by the best people around me. So that was kind of the early years. And then right after, I remember very well that Spain and Latin America were doing very well, even better than Germany and the UK and France and and
Wow.
and those amazing markets in Europe that I always thought that they were kind of the most amazing markets in the European Union. But what that happened at that time is that some of those markets didn't, they were growing, but they were not growing as fast as I was growing.
Right.
So at some point, my former boss says, "Well, what about if you, first of all, we want to upgrade your position to be the chairman of Latin America, Spain, and Portugal." And then I moved to another position, which was the CEO of Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Latin America. So I've been the CEO for so many years. So I think that, step by step, gradually, I was expanding in different territories.
Right.
I was exposed to different clients. I was introducing myself to different leaders with different industries, which I thought was extremely enriching, and gradually learn from other countries, other culture, and other businesses from around the world. And then there was a new change of management in the company, and there was after being the CEO of Europe, Middle East, Africa, Latin America, then there was a new CEO that arrived to Interbrand called Charles Trevel, a fantastic CEO. and then they offered me the position of Global Chief Growth Officer, and I hated that title. I didn't like that title at all.
Why?
Why? Because Chief Executive Officer of Europe was easy. Chief Executive Officer. Well, there is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But growth, imagine if I didn't grow.
Okay, I get you now.
The word growth means it's an action that you need to develop, and you need to convey, and you need to achieve. So having that in your title is kind of complicated. So at that time, I was in charge of performance, clients, and sales for the company, and I did try to unify that. And then, of course, thanks to the entire company, we did it well, and then I was promoted to global president, and then I was promoted to global CEO of the group. So
Fantastic.
usually more or less every 3 years, 4 years, more or less, I did change roles, and they were completely different. There was nothing to do one with another. And to be honest with you, also I was more mature. I did evolve. I learned a lot. I was expanding to different markets. I was able to expand my knowledge. So that's how I stayed so many years
Yeah, yeah.
in the company.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. I was going to ask you, I mean, for a company like Interbrand, I mean, 50 years, as you said, it's not an easy fit. It's not an easy fit to be around for 50 years, 5 decades, and still be as relevant as the company is across the world when it comes to the brand or broader marketing communications conversation. What would you say are, if you were to narrow it down to three things, what would you say are the three things you think drive success for Interbrand? And I'm asking this question for the sake of anyone out there who's looking to build a business within, this same industry, trying to accomplish the same things that you guys have accomplished. What would you say are those three things that, are responsible, that are driving the success for Interbrand? Three.
Three things. I think the first thing is the leading the global expansion, IP, and thinking amazing solutions for our clients around the world. We are everywhere. We are probably the most global consultancy marketing firm in the world. We've been last week, 2 weeks ago, I was in Japan. In Japan, we have almost 200 people. We've been there for 40 years. But in the United States, we've been there also for 35 years. And so the reality is that the establishment of our brands, our work, has been there for many years. So I think understanding markets, understanding regions, understanding capabilities, understanding local solutions to go beyond is something that Interbrand has been always a pioneering. We are really working very, very hard on our own R&D, research development for new solutions that are appealing to clients, and we are constantly co-creating with our clients what we think are the best products for them. So that is probably the first one.
Right.
The second one is that I think the brand is very powerful. Not only because we have working with so many clients, so many industries around the world, but I think of course because of best global brands. Best global brands. Every year there is more than 22 million people that they read our report. 22 million people. From those 22 million people, there is 33% of them are CEOs or C-suite. So imagine the influence that Interbrand has on this report. This report is, according to CEOs, is probably one of the top three more influential rankings for CEOs today. So every year I have to share insights. We have to share data. We need to give advice. We need to talk about trends on what is going on and publish the brands that are doing very well and brands that are not doing well at all, or brands that they need to work harder And I think this put us in a tough spot because sometimes we give good news, but sometimes we give bad news to some
Yeah.
specific brands. Anyway, just to make the list, regardless of your brand value or your position, it's a huge accomplishment for brands
Yeah.
because you are one of the top 100 brands in the world that is represented in the list. And I think this comes to the third thing, which is the way that Interbrand, the ability that Interbrand has to influence things in the world. We are driving change with new innovations, with new brands that they are doing new things. We are creating amazing iconic moves that helps brands to differentiate, and we help the brands to stay ahead of the game. So that influence that Interbrand has, I think that is a seal of approval. We are really trying to work hard, or as hard as we can, to bring the best talent around the world. No
Wow.
matter wherever you come from, no matter whatever you are educated, we are trying to bring the best talent to our firm to make sure that we can deliver premium services to our clients around the world.
Wow. Wow. 22 million people, Gonzalo.
22 million people
Wow.
read a report just in print media. There is more 6 million people that are engaged in social media, 6 million on top. And there is every year almost 2 million people that they go and navigate and spend more than 10 minutes in our website on best global brands, just on best global brands. So, it is a very influential analysis and a study that we publish every year. And we have an amazing data that can help brands to do better. Really, at the end of the day, it is a philanthropical point of view to help brands to do better.
I think, to be honest with you, so it didn't come as a surprise to you when I said at the beginning of this podcast that my first experience of Interbrand was the best global brands list. I'm sure you hear that all the time. Like people who get to know of Interbrand first through the list and then decide to dig deeper and then discover that, oh, there's this company called Interbrand on the background of this. I think it's amazing what you guys are doing with that list. And you are right. It's not just a list.
No,
It's
it's
a,
not.
it's
Remember that some of the companies, many of the companies of the list, the bonus on performance of the C-suite CEOs and the C-suite of companies are based on brand value, not only in financial value or
absolutely,
price earnings. So
absolutely,
remember, the beauty of the brand is the brand. You need to see the brand that can help you to grow over time, and
right.
that is brand value is so important. You can change your business strategy, but I think the brand strategy should be a long-term view on how you should be approaching businesses going forward. So that is why the
Yeah.
brand is such a relevant role in today's society.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to talk about brand value for sure. There's no way I'm interviewing you, Gonzalo, the global CEO of Interbrand, and we will not talk about brand value. I think that if my memory doesn't fail me, my first experience or my first understanding of brand value as well, the concept of brand value, was also through Interbrand, and I think why I really love that list is because it's not just a list. It's a masterclass, it's a masterpiece of a document. I've seen very few reports that are that rich in terms of the content that exists in it. I've seen only a handful of reports like that. So
Mm.
what you guys are doing with the list is incredible. Quick question: why or what inspired this idea of best global brands list? What inspired the idea?
Well, at the end of the day, if you do a transaction, the brand the brand helps to differentiate big time. If you have a stronger brand, you value much more. So I think that is why we spend so much money, or companies spend so much money and invest money in brands, and they communicate and they do advertising and they do communications, etc., etc., etc. So the brand plays a fundamental role in today's businesses, and we know that it is probably the most important intangible asset in the company. Of course, we have talent, which is critical for companies, but we've been measuring intangible assets, and more and more and more, brands are more important. Remember that we do a lot of transactions
Yeah.
for brand valuation. We do a lot of private valuations, and sometimes the reality that the clients are asking us, Interbrand, we don't want to buy the factory, we want to buy the brand. What you would buy? Coca-Cola brand, or you would buy the formula of Coca-Cola, or you will buy the factories of Coca-Cola. Probably you will tell me that you will buy the brand.
Yeah.
I can build the factory right away. I can replicate the formula, but it's very difficult to create something so unique like Coca-Cola as a brand.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
is why the brand is critical. So what we do is we measure the decision making of every customer when they buy products and brands, and we determine what is the decision making, and what is the value of the brand on that decision making, and and how this is affected the consumer behaviors of every single customer around the world.
Okay. Great stuff. So, since the time you started publishing this list, what are some of the major changes that have happened? Because I'm thinking that the parameters you considered when you started this list, let's say 20 something years ago, or let's say when the company started 50 years ago, the parameters you considered when you were evaluating brands, how have those parameters changed over time, especially with how sort of like digital transformation has sort of evolved over that same period of time? Has anything changed in the way you look at how you value brands between 50 years ago and today?
Well, there is 10 dimensions that didn't change. We changed the world of the dimensions, but mainly the dimensions are more or less the same. But of course, there is different factors. For example, today, everything related to trust is important. And right now we value trust, which I think is an important factor. Also, everything related to sustainability plays an important presence. It's important. It's an important factor on how, if the company is doing something good for the world or not. ESGs also plays an important role. The way that you are managing intangible assets with your employees, and the way that you are communicating with them. This is also something that is quite important. The presence. Is your brand registered? Where are you located? How exposed you are to the world? Of course, a brand that is more global, that is well represented in Africa, in Europe, the United States, or Asia Pacific, is a brand with less risk because they are less exposed to local economic crisis. Now, in today's world, usually the crises are the same globally, but remember, 50 years ago, the crises by country were kind of isolated. Now
Yeah.
we see kind of more
Yeah.
global patterns, and the economics are interconnected. So, many things changes, but at the end of the day, the basics are there, which is how I can be closer, how my brand, do I offer something that is cool and exciting? How is the experience? How I am managing the experience, if it's digital or is in a retail store? How I can manage the customer experience? How I can manage the touch points? I am listening enough to the clients. Those things are the same, more or less, and didn't evolve that much over the last 50 years.
Interesting. Interesting. So, as you know, this podcast is the Diary of a CMO, and we've had the opportunity of we've been privileged to have a number of CMOs from the African continent and the Middle East as well on the podcast. I wanted to ask you if you were to give CMOs today, um, I used three the last time. Let me use two now. If you were to give CMOs today two specific things that you want them to pay attention to in 2025, what are two things that you believe that CMOs should pay attention to? I think I saw something on your LinkedIn. I think it was 2 weeks ago. You had said that you were in some sort of a mastermind, with put together by the Drum, and it was really about insights for marketing or CMOs and all of that stuff. So I'm just curious, like, what would be your two big things for CMOs in 2025? What are the two big things that you think CMOs should pay attention to that will go a long way to contributing to building that brand value?
Well, the first one would be about a mix of marketing strategies. You cannot only invest in programmatic and CRM strategies, only data-driven strategies. You need to mix brand strategies and programmatic strategies. I think you need to work in parallel short-term tactical actions and mid-term strategies to evolve the business. That would be the first advice. The second advice probably would be that every single CMO, they need to think about what are going to be their yearly or next 3 years iconic moves. What are the things that he is or she is going to do to make sure that the company stays relevant in the future? And that is a long-term, mid-term strategy for brands to activate.
Interesting.
And I would do a third thing is that keep listening to your customers and dedicate your time as much as possible, not in the political sphere and the political discussions with your company, my business unit, my country, my region, my P&L. Don't think about the inside. Think about the outside. Project yourself and dedicate your time to think about what your customers want. Listen to them. My third advice would be, is all about co-creating with your clients and listening to their challenges to see how you can help them to grow your clients. So I don't care if it's a business to business or business to consumer.
Yeah.
That would be a wise advice to them.
Interesting. When you say iconic moves, when you say what are the iconic moves you want to make in the next 2, 3 years, when you say iconic moves, what do you mean? And like, is there any example or reference you can give for any brand, maybe one of your clients? Like, what do you mean by iconic moves?
Well, I think, for example, for Amazon to create the Kindle was an iconic move.
Okay.
What about instead of selling 1,000 different brands books with different sizes, we created a machine for reading the same different books in the same format digitally from around the world. That is an iconic move for Amazon.
Right.
Another iconic move for Amazon would be, I'm going to try to change the logistics and I'm going to have my own fleet of aeroplanes to make sure that I can deliver faster and faster to my clients.
Interesting.
So that was an iconic move,
right,
for Amazon. So, every single company, they need to find their iconic moves. For example, for Apple, when everyone was leaving and changing their retail strategies, they decided to create these amazing retail places around the world. So remember, at that time, all the retail stores, mega retail stores, were collapsing everywhere around the world. And it is when Apple decided to open amazing independent stores with independent people with their own look and feel, amazing service, amazing design, amazing solutions in one single place, branded Apple. That was an iconic move at that time for
Interesting.
them.
Interesting. So it sounds like if for brands and CMOs who are listening now, it sounds like that responsibility of figuring out what that iconic move will be is not just a marketing function, it's a business function.
Marketing is business.
Got it.
Marketing is business. If you want to make sure that your brand is relevant, you better think, what do you think are going to be the future solutions that you are going to be offering in the next 5 years? Every marketeer, they must think about what is next. And that is why they need to create their own iconic moves to make sure that they stay relevant over time. Because remember, customers are very unfaithful. And if you are there, and they don't remember you, they will not buy you.
Interesting.
So you need to think what is next in your brand to make sure that you stay relevant.
Yeah, I'm going to write that down. Customers are very unfaithful. I'm going to write that down. In an interview with CNBC International, you cited a few things that you consider your biggest leadership lessons. I want to talk about just two of them, but I want to talk about those two things by flipping it. One of the things you said was surround yourself with the best people. Because even on this podcast, you've talked repeatedly about how the success of Interbrand or your success as an executive has a lot to do with the quality of people that you surround yourself with. So, did you ever get this wrong though? This is just me, trying to.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
At some point, when I was younger,
Hmm.
I did hire a lot of people from the big four consulting firms,
Right.
the McKinseys of the world.
Yeah.
But it didn't work. Sometimes they did, and sometimes they didn't. So it was not about the CV; it was about the people. So I'm looking for people that are good. I'm looking for people that are noble. I'm looking for people that they are hard workers, and I'm looking for people that they are committed with the cause and making sure that we'll be aligned with the same values that the company has. So I think the behaviors and the values will play or are playing a very important role for the culture of the company. So I think at the end of the day, if you surround by the best teams around you, uh, together you go faster, you go stronger, and you can ideate, and also you can have fun. So remember, probably I stayed in this company for so many years because I had a lot of fun. Yes, there was good moments, bad moments, growth moments, but at the end of the day, fun and excitement is something that you need to have. And if you are with good people around you that you like, things are easier. Remember that sometimes you
Yeah.
spend more time with your employees and
Yeah.
with your colleagues that
Yeah.
probably will live with my children and my wife. So
Interesting.
that is why in this world we live only once, and you need to make the most of the people around you.
Fantastic. When you find good people and you bring them to your team, um, at least in this part of the world, I've kind of seen that there's usually a struggle with retention, with agencies, you would find that on average, maybe between 3 to 5 years on average, people stay and then they move on. While I understand that people will definitely move on at some point, I'm curious, in your case, what are some of the advice you can give for leaders on how to retain good talents when you find them?
Well, I think first of all, I think you need to be transparent. I think you need
Mm.
to, I was very open on, I don't care if the people come at 9 o'clock or they leave at 9 o'clock or 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock or what they do. As long as they're professional, as long as they listen to the clients, as long as they do deliver on time, as long as they are effective, as long as they are agile. So I think it's all about trust. I think you need to trust your peers, you need to trust your teams, you need them because remember that I am not an expert on everything.
Sure.
I could be good in few things, I could be bad in other things, I could be amazing in other things. So I think everybody needs to map their strengths and weaknesses, and if there is a weakness that you have, or there is something that you don't know, or there is something that you don't like to, making sure that you have someone that can complement to you on any specific task. So it is not only having good teams around you, but also having a diversified, a full diversity in terms of capabilities, in terms of culture, in terms of uh, mm, education, in terms of backgrounds. I think this makes a team much richer because the ideas comes from different places, different backgrounds, different thoughts, different experiences, and usually when you have that mix, usually the ideas are better.
Right, right. The second leadership lesson you mentioned in that CNBC interview, another lesson you mentioned in that interview was learning from your failures. Now, similar to my first question, is that what in your personal experience, what is one failure that you remember that you had to deal with, and what did you take away from that experience?
Good question. Sometimes sometimes I have instinct on something,
Okay.
and I knew exactly that that thing was not going to work because I listen to others, because sometimes there is consensus, because sometimes there is other agreements, or sometimes there are recommendations from others. Whatever I thought was going to happen happened.
Wow.
So sometimes yes, experience is important, but I think the guts on something and feelings on something in management, I think are important.
Interesting. Interesting. Fantastic. I mean, we're starting to round this up now, but I can't round this up with the footprint that you have across the world. I'm just curious, like, how do you navigate multiple cultures, multiple government policies, this multiple cultures and government policies and all these things? How do you navigate it? How do you navigate that?
Today, it's so funny. Today, the airline that I fly the most from
Yeah.
One World sent me a wrap up from the year, and also a wrap up lifetime experience by flying with them alone. And
Okay.
they told me today that I flew around the world 47 times.
What?
That like I flew around the world 47 times. Actually, last week I was in Canada, and the week before I was in Japan, and now I'm in Europe. So I did turn around the world in 1 week, in
Oh
2 weeks,
my
just around the world.
goodness.
Do you know what? I do what I love. I am surrounded by amazing people. I have fun. I learn so much from amazing clients. The beauty of consulting world is that one day you can talk about electronics, another day you can talk about AI, another
Right.
day you can talk about airlines, and another day you can talk about snacks.
Yeah.
And I am so fortunate, and we are so fortunate to understand the business direction and the business strategies and the brand strategies for so many brands around the world. That this is amazing, and that is why probably I'm so happy in the company, and I learn so much every day. I am always learning. I want to learn more every day, and that is what keeps me alive and excited on the things that I'm doing.
Every time I have the opportunity to talk to business leaders on this podcast, I always ask the question about AI. And I ask that question from the point of view of the company. So I could say, for example, when we had the CEO of Sub-Saharan Africa for Dentsu, I asked her, like, what is Dentsu's playbook when it comes to AI? How is Dentsu approaching AI? And I wanted to ask you the same question. How is Interbrand approaching the AI phenomenon? Like, how are you approaching that in terms of, when it comes to your clients and even for the business as well?
Well, two things. There is two streams that right now we are implementing in our company. The first thing is AI as tools. So
Okay.
we are trying to work as fast as possible to integrate as many tools as possible
Okay.
to our employees to make sure that they are fully loaded with all the new, cool, amazing apps around the world so we can make the most of tools and humans to develop something amazing for our clients. So that is the first thing,
Tools.
making sure that the tools are available to every single employee and making sure that there is education behind and there is an academy to make sure that we are constantly learning about these digital disruptions that are coming to stay and to improving our lives. That's the first thing. And
Right.
the second thing is AI as a service. How AI is going to be changing brands going forward. What is going to be the decision making of clients in the future if they go through AI? How you can be much more prominent as a brand through AI, machine learning. How you can be more active there. What are the things that you need to do? How AI is going to be changing to improve your marketing strategies. What are the things that you need to do? So that is what we call AI as a service. So
Interesting.
Interbrand is offering AI as a services for the top
Interesting.
companies around the world. How they can be adopting AI to make sure that they are better marketeers and they keep brands alive and relevant for the future. So that really will play a significant role on how we are approaching AI programs at Interbank globally.
Do you have any worries about from a regulation standpoint, in terms of how AI
Of
is
course.
being, yeah, what are your worries?
So there is again every employee are providing us a list of platforms that they want to use, but we need to really do a very thorough analysis or what to use or not to use.
Right.
Ethics and integrity will play a very important role in AI partners. So you need to select a criteria for your partnerships and you need really to understand potential risks. And this is very important and potential liabilities. So not only Interbrand, but also Omnicom is really paying a lot of attention here to make sure that the partners that we have are well secure partners on everything related to AI. This is super, super, super important. So
Yeah.
ethics and integrity will play a fundamental role on AI going forward.
Fantastic, fantastic. So I have two more questions and then we'll wrap this up, Gonzalo. Thank you. This has been very, very insightful. The first one is on a lighter note, actually. The first one is, if you have been flying around the world 47 times in 1 year, how do you get to relax? Do you relax? I mean, I know you enjoy your job, you enjoy what you do, but how do you get to, wind down? What are some of your hobbies? What do you spend that downtime doing?
Great. So usually every time that I go to a place, I bring my sneakers and I try to run or walk very fast to make sure that I spend at least a couple of hours every single day to do something that it's thinking, walking, running, thinking. So I want to be calm. I really want to take that time, not to make sure that I'm in shape, but also making sure that I have the time to refresh my memory and to think about what are the things that I'm going to do next. So that really helps me to plan that. Of
Okay.
course, if I can spend time with my family, with my children, with my wife more, it's the focus. When I am in the weekends, I'm trying to be with them as much as possible because usually during the week I am outside of the country. So I'm trying to spend as much time as possible with them. And of course, I'm trying always something that I enjoy big time is everything related to nature, nature. If I see a tree or I see a mountain or I see the sea, I am naturally much more relaxed, or I am in a better spot. Um, and I think with that, I'm a happy camper.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And my final question is there anything you would have done differently, Gonzalo? I say, for example, you were talking to maybe your 15-year-old self. You are talking to 15-year-old Gonzalo. What would you want to say to him? knowing what you know today?
To be honest with you, I don't think I would change anything,
Wow.
because something that I did and I think is critical for leaders is trying to be as consistent as possible with
Right.
what you do. I was always very consistent. I think I'm trying to be as consistent as possible. And you know what? My suggestion always is trying to balance your personal and your business life, trying to balance your family, your friends, but also balance the business. We don't want to have workaholics in our company. We want to have people that they have their personal lives and people that are happy in their personal lives. So in order to be happy in your business life, you need to be happy in your personal life. So, what I did, it is what I did. I'm happy with what I did. If I die tomorrow, I will be happy with what I built, and I have no regrets.
Wow. That's amazing. That's Gonzalo, see, I must tell you that what you just said, I'm sure you know already anyway, but such a real blessing to be able to say that if it was to happen now, you are fine with what you have built and your journey through life. I think that's amazing. And I recall at the beginning of this podcast when I was asking about your journey and kind of how you've been able to build what you've built. One of the things you talked about was your parents and how that your parents, were very supportive of you doing or following that dream or whatever passion points you have. And I'm sure that for your kids as well, you are extending them the same grace to try to explore the passions and the strengths that they have. Any nuggets? Your kids are old. I have three kids. I have one boy and twin girls. My boy is 8. The girls are 6. Any advice for me as a parent in closing? Like this is your advice to me as a parent,
Well,
Gonzalo.
every again, I was in boarding schools since I was very very small. So I think one of the good things that my parents did to me is that I was out of the comfort zone many times. So, for example, right now with my children, I try to go to different places. Last time that I was with them in Africa, I was in Morocco, something completely different than being in Madrid. So, trying to be exposed to different things. I think speaking with them, it's all about communications, communications, communications. Make sure that you are connected with them and make sure that you speak with them like my parents speak with me almost every day. So I'm trying to do the same thing and live with love. I think you need to live with love in the business, but I think you need to lead with love with your family. And if you do that, things will come around well, and you will be well received, and people will receive you better if you do that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Gonzalo. I think that is the perfect place to end this podcast. Thank you so much for your time. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. I hope that I get the chance to have you on sometime soon again. And until then, thank you very much. I wish you all the best. I wish you safe travels for every time you are out there flying around the world. I wish you safe travels. And, I'll definitely be in touch with you and the team after this. Thank you very much, Gonzalo.
No, I think Tayo, thank you very much for inviting me. I think this is so important for Africa, as I said, and for the brands in Africa. I remember this a couple of weeks ago, we were having a discussion at the World Economic Forum, and one of the highlights, besides AI and the new elections and the new president in the United States, was that Africa was going to be the focus for the world. And I think there is a big opportunity in Africa in the future. And not only because of the growth, but also there is a big opportunity for African brands to expand, to internationalize, and to do better. So I think this is, Tayo, an exciting times for you.
Fantastic.
Congratulations.
I deeply appreciate that. I'll be in touch with the team, just to figure out if there's any way that, the platform could be of use to the brand within the region, and then we'll see what happens from there. Thank you so much, Gonzalo, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Have a great one. Cheers. Bye bye.